शन्नो मित्रशं वरुणः शन्नो भवत्वर्यमा शन्न इन्द्रो बृहस्पतिः शन्नो विष्णुरुरुक्रमः नमो ब्रह्मणे नमस्ते वायो त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्मासि त्वमेव प्रत्यक्षं ब्रह्म वदिष्यामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्भक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु भक्तारम् ॐ शान्तिः 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 ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 Anuvaka 2, Mantra 2. अन्नाद्वैः प्रजाः प्रजायन्ते याः काश्च पृथिवीगश्रिताः अथो अन्नेनैव जीवन्ति अथैनदपि यन्त्यन्ततः अन्नगुं हि भूतानां ज्येष्ठम् तस्मात् सर्वौषधमुच्यते सर्वं वै तेन्नमाप्नुवन्ति येन्नं ब्रह्मोपासते अन्नगुह्हि भूतानां ज्येष्ठम् तस्मात् सर्वौषधमुच्यते अन्नात् भूतानि जायन्ते जातान्यन्नेन वर्धन्ते अद्यतेत्ति च भूतानि तस्मादन्नं तदुच्यत इति. This is the portion we are going to be discussing. Very beautiful mantra. And here a couple of things are going to be looked at. We are going to look at food in a way that we have never done before. Yeah, usually food is, depending on the person's state of mind. Sometimes you say it is junk food, meaning you just eat on the go. It comes in a packet. And in fact, the packet in which it comes is more nutritious than the food. You can easily eat the packet and throw away the food. So that is how it is sometimes. Okay. So that is one way of relating to food, unfortunately, which we have developed in Kali Yuga, and which we are seeing the bad results of in our bodies, in our minds, everywhere. So that is the thing, so now all the packing is on, what is that called, recyclable, etc. It's easier to eat the packet and throw away the food. That's why it's called junk food. That's one kind of a relationship, unfortunately, we have. Then we also have the opposite of that, meaning complete obsession with the cooking. What is that called? Slow food movement, which is the opposite of fast food movement. Whole day you are cooking. By the time you finish cooking lunch, it is time for dinner. And so this is how it is. And what is that called? Macrobiotic or something like that. Then there is raw food. You graze in the front lawn for breakfast, and for dinner there is the backyard. Okay, so that is another way. So these are, or some people just go restaurant hopping. They don't cook at home ever. Why? Because there are so many restaurants. Why cook? You can go one day have this, one day have Chinese, one day have Vietnamese, one day have all kinds of different things. And so why cook? It's just overrated and overdetermined, there is no need to cook at all. So, regardless of what the relationship to food is, the Upanishad is going to now, in this mantra and in this section, unfold a very, very beautiful and important way of relating to food. And food is, people say, what is that? If you want to win somebody over, you cook them a nice meal. A way to somebody's heart is through the stomach. This is an old saying. Way to somebody's heart is through the stomach. But here, the way to Brahman is through food. Food is one of the many avenues to Brahman. Why? Because everything happens to be Brahman. Hello, food is Brahman. So I can get to Brahman from food. You bet. This is what it's going to be unfolding very, very, very nicely. Very beautiful section and an important section because it has got both Vyavaharika use, empirical use, because if people have food issues, and these days everybody has food issues means some kind of a addiction, some kind of a raga centered on food. That's why we even have an expression for that: comfort food used for comfort. And comfort is used because one is uncomfortable. That's all. And because one is uncomfortable, one needs comforting, and food is easily available. And it easily becomes an object of addiction rather than an object that is to be enjoyed, because you can't live without it, literally. So without food, who can live? Nobody. And so therefore, this is something which has to this is something we have to see, that food issues are different from other forms of addiction. In other forms of addiction, whether you take some drug or even that drinks, alcohol, in alcohol addiction, in substance abuse, you can live without that substance. You just cut it out. You don't hang around people who take those substances. You don't hang around people who drink. Not now, but for the rest of one's life. You avoid the people who drink. You avoid people who use drugs. All these things, and you stay away from those substances and people who do sevana of those substances. And then that is what is needed, and then you can be safe. Then you can, with the help of therapy, etc., overcome that, so long as you stay away. But can you stay away from food? No. You see the difference? You can't stay away from food. And therefore, it becomes a very, very easily available and difficult to notice form of addiction. And addiction doesn't mean, I have to be eating all the time and that's not who I am, and so I don't have addiction. You may not have an addiction. Everybody doesn't have addiction, but food becomes a sitting duck for any kind of to have a dysfunctional relationship, an emotional relationship, a dependency, whatever you may call it. You have to have certain things, you have to eat in this way. All that is not just the physical dependency. The physical dependency overlays the emotional dependency. And then, so therefore, this section is going to help us see food in a very, very different in a very, very different way, and in a much more healthier way. This is on the empirical level. So there is a Vyavaharika usefulness, meaning that I derive my comfort. I'm just going to give the spoilers away right now so that we can then sit back, relax, and enjoy this. So I derive my comfort from knowing that food is not just food, it is Brahman. So then that emotional dependency goes, because in eating the food or in cooking the food, in handling the food, in relating to the food, I am relating to Brahman. The body is a gift of food, so the body is itself Brahman. And the food is Brahman, the eater of the food is also Brahman. Like this, there is a kind of a vyavaharika removal of alienation, which is very, 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 very important. And this relative removal of alienation prepares the heart for the absolute understanding, the understanding that there is absolutely no alienation, because alienated from what? That from that fifth case, alienated from that ablative case is missing. Why? Because from means there is a assumption that there is one more thing there. You need two things. One is the person who is chafing from the feeling of disconnection, alienation, and then that from which the person is alienated. Either the source or some friend or some sense of security, whatever you call. So, minimum two things are needed in order to use the fifth case. But here, this is called Karaka Upamartanam. The Karakas themselves are killed off. Karaka means various factors in action. From, to, off, on, in, object, subject, instrument, all that is gone. For whose sake the action is being performed, all that is just swallowed up. How is the from swallowed up? Because there is nothing other than that Brahman alone which you happen to be. And so there is no alienation from anything. So this is the Vyavaharika, what is that, Prabhava. This is the effect, the Vyavaharika effect of studying this particular mantra. Then another Vyavaharika effect is in the form of the phala. Phala means what is phala? The result. The result of understanding this food as Brahman. Yeah. What is the result? The Vyavaharika result is that when you understand that and you become a devotee. Oh, I'm already a devotee of food. No, you become a devotee of food as Brahman. You become a Brahman devotee. You instead of seeing food, you see the food that sustains you, from which this body has come, unto which this body goes back, by which this body and all bodies are sustained. You see that as Brahman, and that becomes a upasana. And this upasanayaha phalam, this result of this upasana is very beautiful, because on the Vyavaharika level, what happens? You have earned this food. Brahman as food in the form of food assures you that you will never lack any food ever. This is the phala. So, as I have said many times, if you happen to be surrounded by food, and if you happen to not have any kind of shortage of food in your life, and if various kinds of food in your life, various kinds of foods are showing up. One day Chinese, one day Mexican, one day Vietnamese, whatever. Rest assured, you must have done this meditation, upasana, in another life. Because even if you don't recall in this life, I have never meditated upon food as Brahman. If you lament, don't lament, because if your life is surrounded by food, people just can't resist. They look at you and they want to give you food. They just keep on feeding you, and they just you are surrounded by food. Wherever you go, your food is in plenty. You are never worried that you will lack food. That means you have done this upasana in the previous lives, many lives perhaps. And so now just enjoy. So this is another Vyavaharika level, empirical level benefit of looking at Brahman the other way, looking at food as Brahman. This is the very, very nice benefit. Then, because this is the Jnana portion, the Upanishad is the Jnana portion. The Taittiriya Aranyaka is the Upasana portion, but this is the Jnana portion. This is the knowledge portion of the Taittiriya, and so that means that there is more than just this Upasana. There is also the understanding. And what is the understanding? This is now our Vedanta stuff. It is a cognitive stuff. It is paramarthika reality. It is at the level of absolute reality. And what is that understanding? The understanding is that the karana, the food, which is the karana of this body, the cause, pervades the effect. The cause pervades the effect. So the cause becomes Brahman. The cause is greater than the effect. And because if there is no cause, there cannot be an effect. And so if the effect is this body, then the cause is Brahman in the form of food. Then, the food is nothing but Brahman. You swallow up the food, literally and figuratively. And all you see in lieu of food is Brahman. That is where we hope, at least the Upanishad hopes that the person will get. After having enjoyed the Vyavaharika Satta, the empirical reality of enjoying a kind of a oneness and enjoying the plenitude of food by understanding that I'm non-separate from this, I am the product of this food, etc. So then, that is the first level of phala, the effect of looking upon food as Brahman. But then the ultimate effect is using this as a rung on the ladder to understanding oneself as Brahman. The food becomes just a little nimitta on the way. It just becomes what's its name? An excuse. That's all it is. It becomes an excuse, it becomes a nimitta on the way, and you don't really take it that much seriously, and then the food is swallowed up. That's why in every ashram, before eating, we look upon food as Brahman. This mantra is chanted. Om Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmagnau Brahmanahutam Brahmaiva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. Which Upanishad is this mantra from?
Gita.
Yes. That was a quiz because some gap was there in the classes. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was awake, alive, etc. So, yes, this is from the Bhagavad Gita. So, because that if the tune is not there, it is very difficult to recognize the mantra. If you just say Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi, Gita, yes, everybody knows. But if you just chant it as in a textual, prosaic way, it is a little difficult to understand. But everybody did very well. Congratulations. And so here in this mantra, which is chanted before the eating, or before partaking of one's lunch or dinner, since it is chanted, that has the power. That mantra has the power to be able to help one to look upon the food as Brahman. In fact, you don't see food at all. The food is just a nimitta for this body, but you look upon food as Brahman, you look upon the body also as Brahman. And so the food is Brahman, the eater of the food is also Brahman. If you say food is Brahman, then you become Brahma Bhakshaka. You become the eater of Brahman. So it is not savvy to just say food is Brahman. Food is Brahman, yes, but the eater of the food is also Brahman. And all this has come from this Taittiriya Upanishad itself, that Brahmarpanam mantra, as we will see. What is that? The summation of that is, the meaning of that is hidden in this mantra itself. So with this introduction, Now let us go look at the Bhashya. Annat
अन्नात्
रसादिभाव परिणतात्
सादिभावपरिणतात्
वै इति स्मरणार्थः
वै इति स्मरणार्थः
प्रजाः
प्रजाः
स्थावरजङ्गमाः
स्थावरजङ्गमाः
प्रजायन्ते
प्रजायन्ते
याः काश्च
याः काश्च
अविशिष्टाः
अविशिष्टाः
पृथिवीं श्रिताः
पृथिवीं श्रिताः
पृथिवीम् आश्रिताः
पृथिवीम् आश्रिताः
ताः सर्वाः
ताः सर्वाः
अन्नादेव प्रजायन्ते
अन्नादेव प्रजायन्ते
अथ उ अपि
अथ उ अपि
जाताः
जाताः
अन्नेनैव
अन्नेनैव
जीवन्ति
जीवन्ति
प्राणान् धारयन्ति
प्राणान् धारयन्ति
वर्धन्ते इत्यर्थः
वर्धन्ते इत्यर्थः
अथ
अथ
अपि एनत्
अपि एनत्
अन्नम् अपीयन्ति
अन्नम् अपीयन्ति
अपि गच्छन्ति
अपि गच्छन्ति
अपि शब्दः
अपि शब्दः
प्रतिशब्दार्थे
प्रतिशब्दार्थे
अन्नं प्रति प्रलीयन्ते
अन्नं प्रति प्रलीयन्ते
इत्यर्थः
इत्यर्थः
अन्ततः
अन्ततः
अन्ते
अन्ते
जीवनलक्षणयाः
जीवनलक्षणयाः
वृद्धेः परिसमाप्तौ
वृद्धेः परिसमाप्तौ
तस्मात्
तस्मात्
अन्नं हि यस्मात्
अन्नं हि यस्मात्
भूतानां
भूतानां
प्राणिनां
प्राणिनां
ज्येष्ठं प्रथमजम्
ज्येष्ठं प्रथमजम्
अन्नमयादीनां हि
अन्नमयादीनां हि
इतरेषां भूतानां
इतरेषां भूतानां
कारणम् अन्नम्
कारणम् अन्नम्
अतः
अतः
अन्नप्रभवाः
अन्नप्रभवाः
अन्नजीवनाः
अन्नजीवनाः
अन्नप्रलयाश्च
अन्नप्रलयाश्च
सर्वाः प्रजाः
सर्वाः प्रजाः
यस्माच्च एवं
यस्माच्च एवं
तस्मात्
तस्मात्
सर्वौषधम्
सर्वौषधम्
सर्वप्राणिनां
सर्वप्राणिनां
देहदाहप्रशमनम्
देहदाहप्रशमनम्
अन्नम् उच्यते
अन्नम् उच्यते.
very nice and straightforward bhashya. We'll look at it in detail now. So Annath, he says, Annath means not directly from the food. people are born. Annat vai prajaha prajayante. By food, the people are born. People are born of food. That is the sentence. So annat means not directly from food, in the sense that your limbs are not idlis and bread. It is transformed into muscles, blood, flesh, etc. That is what is being pointed out. So Bhashyakara doesn't forget. He is very, very, alert, and there is no slacking at all in the Bhashya. So Annat means immediately, Anna Rasamayaha, the earlier he remembered. So Anna Rasadi Bhava Parinatat. Parinatat means, that which is a transformation. So Anna Rasadi, from the rasa means the essence, the vitamins, the proteins, they need to know where to go. They all go to certain places, and certain foods nourish the endocrine glands, certain food nourish the heart, the kidneys, the lungs, the liver, pancreas, etc., etc. So Anna Rasadi Bhava Parinatat. Parinatat means from that which is, this is this Sharira is Anna Rasamaya, we already saw. This is, we are talking of the empirical, Atma here, Mithyatma. So this Purusha who has come from this Annam is Atma. What kind of Atma? The Atma that is endowed with a body, with a mind, with a, what is that, this, what is that? Deha, what is that? Karya, Karana, Sanghata, Upahita, Chaitanya. A consciousness, the Atma that is as though endowed with the body, with the mind, with the senses, etc. That is what is this Purushakara. This Purusha is Annarasamaya. We saw all this. Purusha is Atma. So Annarasa Vikaraha. So therefore he remembers that we had just seen this before. A very beautiful way of connecting what went before. This is why we love Adi Shankara's Bhashya, because he keeps us on our toes. And if we have forgotten that Sava Esha Purusho Narasamaya, if we have forgotten that before, we have to now remember that. We have to now remember. This is what the thing is. We have to now remember that. And so that is why Bhashyakara very helpfully, without chiding the person, of course you would have forgotten. What can we expect of you? No such thing. Without any kind of a judgment or chiding, just a reference to the past thread of the Upanishad is taken up very nicely, seamlessly, eases into this section. And this Purusha is Annarasa Vikaraha. So Annat Rasadi Bhava Parinatat. So that Anna which has undergone the change into becoming the essence which nourishes the body. So there is a Vai, Annadvai. And what is this Vai? Vai usually means indeed. Bhashyakara says no, not according to the parampara. Vai iti smaranarthaha. Why is that little, what is that? That little particle, nipata, that little indeclinable particle, which is supposed to make you remember. Remember what? Hello, what we just talked about. Make you remember that savai esha purushaha anna rasamayaha. This Upanishad sentence has already been talked about, commented, and and treated by Bhashyakara earlier. That is what one is supposed to remember. And in the Upanishad also, the Upanishad uses the sentence because why means we have already discussed this earlier. That is what we are supposed to remember. Why iti? So this nipata, this particle, this indeclinable particle called why is for smaranartha. And what is the smaranam here? All that we have studied, we have to bring back. Oshadhibhyonnam annat purushah sabha esha purushonnarasamayah. All this we have to bring. Oshadhibhya annam. And so the food comes from what? plants. And the plants come from what? Earth. Earth comes from what? Water. Like this, all the way up to Akasha. We can go. So, but the last one, Oshadhibhyaha Annam. And Annat Purushaha iti Smaranarthaha. For reminding us what just went before, what was said before. This is the same thing that is being talked about, and this is just a segue. And so, to remind you of that, Annadvai here is also not just Smaranartha, Prasiddhi. Why is also another reason. Prasiddhi. Prasiddhi means we've already talked about this. Food is famous. Food is famous for nourishing the body. Anybody knows. Anybody off the street knows, even if they are not a medical doctor, they know that they survive by food. So this prasiddha, it is prasiddha, it's already made known to you. So this why is for reminding us of that. Then the next word that is being talked about is prajaha. What is prajaha? Prajaha usually means subjects. But here, prajaha, we have to take the grammatical vyutpatti. Vyutpatti means the etymological meaning. Prakarshena jayante iti prajaha. What is prakarshena jayante? Means karma anusarena. According to their karma and according to Bhagavan's anugraha and their prayers and whatever karmas were able to be cancelled out and whatever they were able to, they were able to do. All this is the pra there. Simply Jayante. You could have, so we could have just called them Jaha. Jayante iti Jaha, we could say. But why Prajaha? Why the pra? The pra is, see, this is the beauty of Bhashyakara. Not even a syllable is missed. Really. Prakarshena Jayante iti Prajaha. So this Prajaha means those that are born for a reason. Nothing is useless. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason. You are not just plonked here for without any reason. No matter how useless one feels, there is a purpose to this birth. There is a purpose to taking on this body, whether it's a body of a cockroach or whether it's a body of a human being. There is a purpose. And sometimes the purpose is he mutually gets what's its name, mutually gets fulfilled. The human being sees the cockroach and screams. So some fear was there that needed to be exhausted. And the cockroach, poor thing, is also afraid because after all, the human being is 100 times bigger than the poor cockroach, and so the cockroach also hides away, runs away from the broom or whatever with whatever instrument it's being chased. It runs away and hides. So, like this, this is what is called this is prajaha. So, what is prajaha exactly? I know the grammatical meaning, that which is born for a purpose, and that which has a body, which has karma is praja. Okay, got it. But what is this praja exactly? Adi Shankara explains, sthavara jangamaha prajaha. What is jangama? Moving. Like what? The bodies, various bodies. Everybody moves. Even in sleep, you move. You don't keep stationary. One side you get tired and there is some pain, something, you move to the other side. And some memories come in the sleep in the form of half-baked dreams. And then so one starts to flap around the hands and legs. That is also there, even in sleep. And of course, while awake, one does move a lot. And even if you're sitting in samadhi, there is some, imperceptible movement because the food is still continuing to be digested and the breathing is happening. All this is there. And so that which moves is called jangama. And then the opposite of that is sthavara. Sthavara means that which does not move. that which stays. Stays means what? Stays put, doesn't move. What is an example of sthavara?
Tree.
A tree.
Trees.
Tree. Very good. I'm glad everybody gave the example of tree. Because if you had said mountain, then I would have said, yes, that is also sthavara. But here it is about those that are eating the food, prajaha, right? Those that are born of food. You cannot say the mountain and the rivers are born of food, no, because they are part of the earth and the five elements, water, etc. You can't say Vayu is born of food or if it is Jangama, no. So therefore, very specific definition of Jangama and Sthavara to mean the Jangama means here and Sthavara also to mean the botanical and the zoological and botanical world. That's all. That's what it means. You don't count the hills and you don't count the fossilized rocks and petrified rocks, etc. You don't count that because they are not consuming food. Because this is the food section, so only that which is pertinent to the food. That's how there is a kind of a finesse in interpreting this. Even though technically you will be correct, rock is thavara, hill is thavara, planets are thavara, but here it just means trees, plants, even fungus, all that. Anything that eats food and lives off food. Even mold is sthavara because it lives off humidity. So this is sthavara jangamaha. So things that move and things that do not move. And then so this, and so therefore the botanical world and the zoological world, all of them, the entire world of vegetation depends upon annam. And the entire world of, the moving world in the form of insects and bacteria and people, they also depend upon food. So therefore Bhashyakara says Thavara Jangamaha Prajayante Prakarshena Jayante Iti Prajaha. So the Annat Vai Prajaha Prajayante. So according to their karma, everybody is born. Previous karma. What kind of karma? Sanchita karma. And in the Sanchita karma, there is combination, I'm telling you, for any kind of body. Because karma is ananta. Karma is ananta, not just Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, but karma, relatively speaking, is ananta. Can only be transcended by Atma Jnanam. And so this karma being ananta, that means that means in any given lifetime, according to one's karma, according to one's desires, according to whatever is said in the Shruti, whatever body one has to take, various kinds of bodies are available. Various kinds of bodies. And anybody, not anybody can come in the next life. You don't know what it's going to be. And in fact, if you see some kind of a helpless, hopeless, hapless animal being abused, the heart goes out. Cow being led to slaughter or some animal being led to slaughter, the heart goes out. And then, or you see some, insect being tortured. Sometimes, in India, these young fellows, young boys, they tie a string around a dragonfly and, fly it like a kite. The poor thing is not having a good time. It's struggling to be free. And it's just so painful to see. And when you see such things, you can heave a sigh of relief. OMG, missed. Barely missed. Caught dragonfly Janma missed. Dog Janma missed. Dogget Janma missed. Cat Janma missed. Catatonic Janma missed. Catastrophic Janma missed. Thank God. Thank God. Yeah. Although sometimes, especially in the first world, it may look like it's very nice to be a dog or a cat. They don't have to go to work. Nowadays they even have an iPad that they can play on and they can do, they can have their games. and they can watch video, dog videos, cat videos, they can watch. And somebody has to slog and feed them. But that's only in certain countries and certain households. You come to other parts of the world where animal abuse is a sad reality, a very, very sad reality. So whenever we see all these things, immediately the one thing we can do now that we know this is that now that we know that the Sanchita Karma, along with great anugraha and some grace, anugraha means grace working overtime, even though I have walked all over this grace, it has worked overtime for me and it has endowed me with a human body with which I can think, see, feel, make discernments, make judgments, and come to this knowledge and imbibe this knowledge. This is a adhikari body, a qualified body for this knowledge. Great punya. So you can say, missed. Thank God, missed. Because every combination of every form of the creature on this earth and other places is there. So when you see all these creepy crawlies, you can say, I might as well be this. And then, actually it is good because it fosters ahimsa. You don't immediately want to kill the mosquito, kill something that, some kind of inadvertent moth that has come and flown into the house, or a gecko, or anything. So this fosters a certain kind of non-violence because the thought is always there, especially after some exposure to Vedanta. What is the thought? This could have very well been me. Thank God, it is not. And so then that is why one has a certain kindness. A certain kindness is there, and so therefore this is the one, it fosters the kindness. And so therefore every kind of praja you can be, every kind of creature. And the Upanishads themselves categorize four kinds of birds. Four kinds of birds which encompasses all the creatures in the universe. One is mammals, Jarayuja. Jarayuja means mammals, born of the mother, directly born of the mother, Jarayuja. Then, so that is all the mammals. And then we have Andaja. You know, Andaja means what? Egg born, born of egg. That's why birds, etc., reptiles and birds are called dvijas, twice born. Oh, but I thought that was Brahmana. Yes, but then you share this epithet along with birds and reptiles. Why? Because dvija means twice born. First, the egg is born, so one is born as an egg, and then after that, one is born again after you crack open the egg, and the little chick comes out saying peep, 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 and that is the second birth, so to speak. Andaja. Then Udbija. Udbidya jayante, udbijaha. Udbidya means bhumim udbidya. They break open the earth and come out. So all the plants, mushrooms, all these things which break open the earth, creepers, trees, everything, grasses, they are all called udbija. They break open the earth and make themselves born. And so then Andaja, Udbija, Jarayuja, finally Shvetaja. Svedaja. Svedaja means, Sveda means sweat. Sweat here is not literally sweat. Sweat means moisture. Moisture born. That's another very interesting category. You keep rice in a container, especially in a tropical country. You keep rice in a container and then you go away for a month somewhere and then you come back and small, creepy crawlies of various colors in the rice. How did they come? Where were they? born of the moisture that was locked up and because of the tropical climate. This is Shvetaja. And Swetaja also means the, what is that called? The mold, mildew, all this is Swetaja. So this is the four yonis, four kinds of origins that encompass all the creatures from microscopic to a woolly mammoth. All of them, hippopotamus, all of them are there. All of them are there. Every form of yoni, one can go in and come out, and any form of karma. Why? Because it is anadi pravritta, means the karma is anadi. Various infinite combinations are there. Therefore, the only hope is through jnana, I transcend the karma. Through knowledge, I transcend the karma. Why? Because the knowledge teaches that you are no longer the karta. When the karta is falsified, the karma is automatically falsified. Automatically falsified. That is how it is. And so, this is something which is, the jnana marga, the path of knowledge means the commitment to knowledge. That is what is going to take us out of this karma vyuha. Vyuha means this black hole spiral of karma. So this is what can take us out. And once I was traveling from Mumbai to Ahmedabad with Pujya Swamiji, and it was soon after this 911, where people were very scared and the security measures were just too much. Every two minutes you were frisked. Every two minutes in Mumbai, in India, every two minutes you were searched without any reason and without any cause and without any warning. And so, like this, even though we were early, we almost thought we would miss our flight. We would miss our flight because of the searches, and then the line near the security gate was so long, and we had already been searched twice, plus we had to go through security again. And so, we did not know what was going to happen. And we were thinking that we'll just have to take another flight, or what will happen, we had no idea. Then suddenly, one person came, one airport security person came with a board saying the city of Ahmedabad. Ahmedabad, Ahmedabad, who is traveling, who is traveling, who is traveling? This is how we do it in India, okay? This is the bus catching mentality. On the buses, when you go to the bus stand, it is only Bhagavan knows which bus is going where. Nobody knows. Nobody else knows. So you just have to wait till the driver and the lackey of the driver, somebody who sells the tickets and then tells the bus to go and stop, called the conductor. So till they come, it is anybody's guess where any bus will go. You cannot board in advance and sit. Even if you do, you'll have to get down and go somewhere else, because suddenly they can change their mind which bus is going where. So then they'll say Chennai, 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 Chennai. Then you have to go and sit in that bus. So say that same mentality we haven't grown out of. And so here also that he had a placard, that airport security person had a placard that says Ahmedabad, please come, please come, please come, follow me. And then immediately Swamiji and I followed, and then he did not subject us to more searches, and then we were safely on the plane. And then Swamiji was very quiet. I was wondering, I wish I would know what he's thinking. He's so quiet. I didn't have to wait very long, because as soon as we landed there, and then there was a public talk that he had to give. He talked about karma, this very topic that we are talking about. And then he said, he said, you are in this line with all other jivas, with all other sthabaras and jangamas, all these kinds of births that are waiting in line for you. But then, if you have studied Vedanta, then a person comes carrying a board, moksha, 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 please follow me. Human birth, human birth, and then, means the ability to pursue this knowledge is automatically there. So that is a very beautiful story, and shows how how easily this can be missed, and then you can so you can just One can just become a tree, or one can become a creeper, whatever. And therefore, this is therefore, this is the word praja. Praja means that sthavara and jangama, all the things are included. Then he says, Yah kascha avashishtaha prithivim ashritaha taha sarvaha annadeva prajayante. So therefore he says, this prajaha means sthavar jangamaha, these moving and non-moving forms of life, prajayante, they are born according to their karma in different forms. Then the Shastra wants to make it complete, because what if something is left behind? If something is not accounted for in sthavara and jangama, means something, it could be some kind of a bacteria which is neither a plant nor an animal, but some kind of organic matter which has some kind of a life, which is what they are trying to find on Mars. That's why this perseverance and curiosity, the two rovers that they have, every day they are packing up soil samples to send to the earth, to see if there is some kind of organic organic matter. So, if supposing that organic matter is not included in sthavara and jangama, therefore we have the next line. What is that next line? Yah kascha, whatever is there. Yah kascha prithivim ashritaha. So then what yah kascha means whatever, avishishtaha means whatever is there, or whatever unremarkable thing that is obtained on this earth, which includes anything. It could be a blade of grass, it could be invisible to the naked eye like a microbe, any species that is there, all of them, prithivim ashritaha. As long as they depend on the prithvi, on the earth, because sometimes they don't eat plants, they don't eat food per se, they may be eating dirt. That is also food. Dirt is food. And so for certain beings, and so all, sometimes they just breathe the air somehow, and they live off the air, certain kinds of plants. So all of them are included here, meaning there are no annadvai prajaha prajayante, means there is no exception. Later also he is going to pick this up. And then this annam is then going to be defined, and very ingenious definition of annam. How is the word annam derived? The word annam is derived from the root verb ada bhakshane. It's a very deliberate, extremely deliberate definition. Not at all. There is no accident here. An extremely deliberate definition. So you take the root verb ada. Ada means to eat. Bhakshane. Ada bhakshane. Okay. Ada bhakshane. So this is the second conjugation verb. And then when you make it into a verb, this is just the root verb. But then if you say he or she eats, it becomes atti. And then if you do karmani prayoga means a passive usage. It becomes adyate. Ad plus yak plus te, adyate. So this is the deliberate grammatical, etymological definition of the word annam the Upanishad gives. Adyate, atti. Atti eats. Adyate, it is eaten. That which is eaten and that which eats in turn is called annam. Ingenious definition. Really, nowhere else you see this. Not any science, nothing, nowhere else you see this. So then, so suppose, the cow, listen now, cow eats the grass. So the the cow eats atti, what? Trinam. Trinam atti. And then the poor cow is eaten by somebody, by a group of people, by somebody. Adyate. It is eaten. It is eaten adyate. It is eaten by, we can say, manushyahi, purushaihi. It is eaten by the people. Poor cow. So you see, this one is active voice, the other is karmani prayoga, passive voice. We have this in English also. Eats, atti is eaten, adyate. Adyate tica bhutani. This is the portion here. So then, this is how it is ingenious. It's a very ingenious definition for two reasons. The first reason we'll take is the Vyavaharika reason, the immediate empirical reason why this is an ingenious definition. Because this is the way of the world. The cow, for the grasses which are alive, the cow is the predator, but the grasses are unlucky, they cannot run away. They cannot run away. But even the grasses don't want to be eaten, really speaking, because everything wants to live. So the grasses have a protective, kind of a rough texture. Sometimes, that's why it's called a blade of grass, because it can cut. It can cut if you are not very careful in how you take it, how you pick it. So same thing, every food. There is in fact a book written. I forgot. Very interesting book has been written by somebody about how the food, all the vegetables and all the plants, they don't really. They all want to live, just like you want to live, and we all want to live. And so the plant also wants to live. And so what does it do? It develops certain reactions to being eaten. Some plants will emit some kind of toxins, like even our innocent cucumber. The cucumber, if it is not treated properly, at least the Indian cucumber, I don't know any kind of hybrid cucumber and the new versions that have come, but the Indian, what is that called? Indigenous cucumber to India, if you just cut it in the middle and eat, it will have a bitter aftertaste. Why? Because it doesn't want you to cut into it and it cannot run away. So it develops this bitter aftertaste. What do? You cut the edges of it and then you rub the edges against that cut portion. You against the big cucumber. You rub the edges, and a little bit of a frothy residue comes after about 2 minutes. And then, or you do that on both sides, and then you grate the cucumber. You cut the cucumber. It is no longer bitter. So like this, there is certain ways in which the food also has certain protective mechanisms. The plants also have certain protective mechanisms in order to continue to live. But still, they are eaten. The plants also eat. The plants also live off the earth, and the plants also eat. They eat they eat the solar rays. They eat the sunlight, and then they grow, and then they do that, and then so like this. This is the way of the world. That which eats is ultimately eaten. So you see this from all through the food chain, the eater and the eaten. And then there is sometimes a joke, because you eat something and then it gives you a stomach ache because of certain toxins or whatever. So the eater is then eaten by the food. So like this, the whole jagat is the big fish eats the small fish. It lives off of this eater and eaten dynamic. Look at everything. Look at the natural world. Just look at any kind of a National Geographic video. You will see this immediately. And sometimes it is very interesting, because the one that you think should be eaten is actually escaping the eater. Very, very nice. And then I saw one small video somebody sent, and then that had this beautiful, these buffaloes escaping three, four buffaloes escaping a bunch of tigers, big cats, and they were gaining ground. And then thankfully there was there was a river, and the buffaloes jumped into the river, and then they know how to swim. And so they swam. Tigers are looking very longingly. What has happened? They are going, and sometimes one of the buffaloes was so clever. The tiger also, one tiger also tried to come in the water, but the rapids were too much. But it still entered the water. It was looking for the prey, and the buffalo just submerged itself under the water and tricked the big cat. And the big cats just remained on this side of the shore, and the buffaloes escaped. Very nice. So, like this, you see sometimes that which should have been eaten actually escaped. And we see this in America also. The truck that is taking the cows to the slaughterhouse, suddenly two of them escape, and then they are granted immunity. And then similarly, now this Thanksgiving is coming, and then sad time for all the turkeys. And then the two turkeys by the President of the United States are pardoned. So all this is there. So the dynamic of the eater and the eaten, this is what makes the Jagat. Something is eaten, something eats. Sometimes the eater is eaten, and sometimes that which is eaten eats the eater. So like this, it continues. So this is all pure Vyavaharika Satta. This is all pure on the empirical observational thing. And then, this is the way of the world. This is the way of the world. That's why we need to have certain rules where to stop eating. And that's why the human being, we have put ourselves on the top of the food chain, because we don't want to be eaten by other human beings. And because if the rules were not there like that, probably that would also take place. And so this is how the food is looked at by the Upanishad very ingeniously from two standpoints: kartritvena and karmatvena. Kartritvena means from the standpoint of being an agent, where the food is an object. And karmatvena means from the standpoint of the food being let me rephrase that again, because somewhere it got mixed up. Kartritvena means from the standpoint of atti. Atti means eats. So eats means karta, agent, from the active voice. Active voice means there is an agent there. And then passive voice adyate, it is eaten karmatvena. So from two standpoints, the food is looked at. And so this is therefore this is the definition of food. Who would know that there would be such a complex and sophisticated and intricate definition of food? I told you, we will never see food the same way before after we finish this particular Bhashya. Very, very beautiful. And then, so from the standpoint of the Paramarthika Vedanta that we see, from the standpoint of the knowledge, we have to see now Annam therefore as Karanam, cause. Annam becomes the cause. Why? Because it sustains all the beings. Annad vai prajaha prajayante, it was talked about. And so all the things are born of food, sustained by food, and then finally what? Unto the karana, unto the food they go. They are resolved. The food, unto the food, this body goes back. This body goes back to the food. Even though you say, no, body cannot go back to food. In fact, we believe in cremation. Even if you cremate, that carbon or whatever, those ashes, they in turn nourish the earth, and then that grows more vegetables, etc. Very, very nice it is. And then so it goes back, and so the annena jivanti annam prayanti abhisam vishanti. The next valli is going to talk about where Bhrigu, the son of Varuna, Varunam Pitaram Upasasara, one day approached the father, wanting him to be the teacher. He had a very important question. Please teach me Brahman, please teach me that by which all the beings are born, from which all the beings are born, by which everything is sustained, and to which everything goes back. Please teach me that source. And then the teaching starts. And then the first Bhrigu is told by Varuna, the father turned teacher, please go and understand, please desire to know this. Do some mananam, do look around and see. What do you think? Because, see, it's one thing to give the knowledge, and that, of course, Varuna will do later. But first, he tells the son to go and find out what do you think sustains everything. So the answer, of course, is food. So he comes back and says, food is the karanam. Out of food we are born. By food we are sustained. Unto food we go back. And then, and that, anticipating that, here itself the Upanishad introduces this concept right here, that you go, you go back to food, you come from food, you are sustained by food, same thing. So taha sarvaha prajaha annadeva prajayante. All these prajas, sthavaraha jangamaha, they are born of annam alone. Atha u api, indeed, jataha anne naiva jivanti. Atho anne naiva jivanti. Don't say anne naiva jivanti. Don't break it like that, even though the naiva is, there is a swara there. When we chant, we say atho anne naiva jivanti. Naiva jivanti means na eva jivanti. No, no, no. That's not where to break it. Atho annena eva jivanti. Only by food they are sustained. Only by food they are lived. They live upon food alone. Annena eva jivanti. By food alone they live. Jivanti means what? Pranan dharayanti. The prana has to sustain. If you don't eat, the prana will depart. That is what Shvetaketu found out the hard way. He was told to fast for 15 days, eat very less, and practically fast for 15 days. And then, come on, chant Sama Veda. And he was fainting right there. He couldn't even remember anything. So, therefore, so that we know that one lives by food alone. By food alone, one is born. By food alone, one is sustained. And so that is the same thing, that spirit of that is being talked about here. And little bit of beautiful touch by Bhashyakara. If you look up the Dhatu Patha, if you look up the list of root verbs and their meanings, you will find that Jeev, to live, is defined as pranadharane, to sustain the pranic operations. That is what jiva. Jivanam means what? To live means what? All the pranic operations, respiration must be taking place, inhalation, exhalation, digestion, circulation, elimination, all this should be taking place. Otherwise, it is not called living. And so the basic definition of life is prana dharane, the ability for the prana to sustain the prana. And so Adi Shankara reminds us by saying anne naiva jivanti, by defining that and explaining that pranam dharayanti, a little nod to the root verb jiv prana dharane, pranam dharayanti. Therefore, they sustain the prana means they live, etc. And so then vardhante iti arthaha. Again he explains, means they keep growing. Growing means what? Not growing sideways. That is another form of growing, growing fat or whatever. But here, growing means up to a point you grow. The child grows because the child is not fully grown. The child grows. Any baby animal grows until its peak. After that, what? All decline. So growing only up to a point. Growth is not there, but still to sustain the body, the food acts as a source of nourishment. And vardhante means they are nourished. We can take after they stop growing, they are nourished. Atha api enat. Enat means is another word for annam. Enat means anna. Athai nadapi antyan tataha. This is always very interesting, the sandhi here. Atha enat api apiyanti antataha. This is how it is broken. Athai nadapi antyan tataha. And so this is the atha means now, enad, the food, apiyanti, they enter the food, meaning all the beings are now eaten by the food. They are born of food, they are sustained by food, they become one with food, they resolve into food. And atha enat api, and api should be looked at from the standpoint of the prati. Prati means towards. They all go back towards the food. When antataha, at the end of their lives, antakale, after death. And then after death, antataha, they go back to the food. Apiyanti, apigachanti, annam prati liyante. They all they are all resolved into the food when antataha ante जीवन लक्षणायाः वृद्धेः परिसमाप्तौ. So at the end of the life, Lakshanayaha means when the life, as we know it, with the signs of life ebb, Vriddhehe Parisamapta, when the person has stopped growing, not only stopped growing, but then shows that the prana is leaving, and at the end of that life, they go back to food only. In the most drastic way, we can see this in the Zoroastrian people's way of disposing of the body. And many of them settled in India, known as the Parsis. They neither bury nor cremate. They want the body to be food for the vultures and hawks and other birds of prey. So then there is some kind of a big compound is there. You can see this even in Mumbai, and it's called the Tower of Silence. And then there are special priests who carry the body, and they have to be covered up completely, otherwise the vulture may not be able to make out the dead from the living, and they'll all be there, so they have to be covered up, and they have a particular way of carrying some firebrands, etc., to stave off these birds of prey, and then they just leave the body there and they have to rush back. That is the last this way of disposing the body. Very interesting, because in few hours it is picked clean, only the bones may be left. That's what it is. And so literally the body has gone back to becoming food. It's gone back to the vulture's stomach. And then so atha enat apiyanti antataha. And then tomorrow we'll see more, continuing the Bhashya from here. All right. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadad Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Sanskrit will be there tomorrow, not today. Oh, that's it.
Thank you so many, Ji.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Thank you. All the best.